I get it, you're scrolling through endless listings, trying to figure out which gaming PC actually deserves a spot on your desk instead of ending up as a pricey paperweight. You've probably spent a few nights imagining how those specs translate into real-world performance, and you're worried about dropping hard-earned cash on something that won't run the games you love at the settings you expect. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon, and I'm going to walk through exactly what the Skytech Nebula brings to the table so you can decide whether it fits your setup or if you should keep looking. First off, the Nebula sits in a crowded middle ground of pre-built gaming rigs. It's not trying to be a boutique masterpiece with custom water loops, but it's also not a bare-bones budget box that forces you to upgrade everything yourself. The core of the machine is an AMD Ryzen 55500, a 6-core, 12-thread processor that clocks up to 4.2 GHz. In everyday gaming terms, that CPU handles the majority of modern titles without choking, especially when paired with the NVIDIA RTX 4060. The 4060 is the sweet spot for 1080p and solid 1440p performance. Think high or ultra settings in games like Apex Legends, Valorant or Assassin's Creed Valhalla while still keeping frame rates above 60 frames per second on most titles. If you're the type who streams your sessions on Twitch or YouTube, the card's dedicated hardware encoder can offload that work without sacrificing gameplay smoothness. Now, why does that matter beyond the headline numbers? Let's say you're planning a weekend binge of Cyberpunk 2077. With the Nebula's RTX 4060 and 16GB of DDR4 3200 RAM, you can push high settings at 1080p and still see load times that feel almost instantaneous, thanks to the 1TB NVMe SSD. That SSD isn't just a marketing line, it's the kind of storage that eliminates those long waiting rooms between missions. For someone who jumps between games, mods, and perhaps a bit of video editing on the side, the extra space and speed mean you won't be constantly juggling external drives. One of the often overlooked strengths of this build is the 650W80+ gold power supply. It's not a cheap, non-modular unit that can cause instability when the GPU spikes. The gold rating means better efficiency, less heat, and quieter operation overall. Couple that with Skytech's high-performance air cooler, and you'll notice the system stays comfortably cool even during long raids in Destiny 2 or marathon sessions of Elden Ring. The cooler isn't a flamboyant RGB monster, but it does the job without the whine that some budget fans produce. On the flip side, the Nebula isn't perfect, and that's where the practical weaknesses come into focus. The case design is fairly utilitarian: no tempered glass side panel, limited front panel ports, and just one HDMI plus a single DisplayPort. If you're the kind of gamer who likes a triple monitor setup for immersive flight sims, you'll need to invest in an adapter or a different GPU down the line. Also, the Ryzen 55500, while solid, is a generation behind the newer Ryzen 7000 series. In CPU-heavy games like Microsoft Flight Simulator or certain strategy titles, you might notice a small dip in frame rates compared to the latest chips. It won't cripple the experience, but it's a nuance that power users tend to feel. Another consideration is upgradability. The 650W PSU gives you headroom for a modest GPU upgrade, maybe stepping up to an RTX 4070, but the case itself isn't the most spacious for large cooling solutions or multiple storage drives. If you envision swapping in a massive liquid cooler or adding a second SSD in the future, you may hit physical constraints. For many buyers, that's a non-issue because the stock configuration already hits a sweet spot, but it's worth mentioning for those who plan a long-term upgrade path. Price is where the Nebula's value proposition really shines, or at least where the debate centers. Compared to building a comparable system from scratch, Ryzen 55600X, RTX 4060, 16GB RAM, 1TB SSD, a decent PSU, and a case, you're looking at a similar or slightly higher out-the-door cost once you factor in tools, time, and the occasional surprise component price spikes. What you gain is a ready-to-play box with Windows 11 Home pre-installed, Wi-Fi AC built-in, and a warranty that covers the whole system rather than individual parts. If you're comfortable troubleshooting BIOS settings, cable management, and driver installs, building yourself could shave a few $100s. But for anyone who wants to plug in a monitor, a keyboard, and start gaming by the weekend. The Nebula removes that friction. Who should consider hitting add to cart? If